Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Kuf Mem Vav Amid Aleph. The Mishnah on Kuf Mem Vav Amid Aleph. So we know that in the old days they get married a little different than our days. We have in the old days they would be Erisin. Erisin is you would mekadesh to Isha. She'd be an Ashes Ish, but you would not live with her, and she would take a year or so, 12 months, and she would be living by her father, and you'd be living by your father. At the end of 12 months, you'd have this Nisuin, and she would come to live with you. And as we saw, her father went ahead and would go ahead of he'd have a special housemaid, or he'd give away his house if he had another house in the city. We saw that Gemara. After the day of when there was Erisin, your person would send gifts called sivloinus. They'd send gifts. And on occasion, they would come to go ahead and eat a suda while sending the sivloinus. So the Mishnah here is the sugya we're doing tonight is the sugya of sivloinus. What's the halachas of these gifts? Okay, says the Mishnah, Hasholeach sivloinus lebeis chamav, someone who sends these gifts to his father-in-law's house, shalach sham meyamana, if he sends meyamana, that's an incredible amount, v'achol sham sudas chasen afilu b'dinar, if he eats sudas chasen, even a dinar, ain't a nigbin. He's not going to go ahead, let's say she dies, or let's say he dies, or let's say he wants his money back for whatever reason, right? There's no backsies. If he eats the suda, there's no backsies. Okay. However, if he doesn't eat the suda, then what? Then harielu nigman shalach sivloinus. Okay, so let's see the Rashbam on that, guys. It's gonna set the tone for the rest of the daf. Hashalech sivloinus minik chasanim la'acha kedushin lemachros the next day shalech lebeis chamav ishtay. They would send the next day lekaved his wife. What would they'd send? Tachshitin, jewelry, umine peiros, and different types of fruit. The kadayayin and barrels of wine. The kadei shemen and barrels of oil. Upamim oichel sham imam. At times they would go ahead and eat. After sending these gifts, he would eat as well. If he ate a dinar's worth, ein nigvin. Then if the marriage doesn't work out, in meis hu, oishe mesa he, oishe boy, or he changes his mind, and he wants a divorce, now, then there's no backsies. If he had a suda, there's no backsies. Why if there's no backsies? Machmas the chiba of the eating and drinking together, and there's simcha together. Machal sivloinus is machal the sivloinus that he sent. Now, be aware, but it's not a karpan statement. It depends upon whether they are a suyin li balais. If they're one that are going to head and be eaten up, literally. If you send wine, wine's used up, right? You send shemen, shemen's used up. Clothing might be used up. Gold, silver, not. So this halacha of eating and being able to change your mind that if you want to divorce your wife or die is only when it's something that is used up. However, continues Rashbam, aval ein asuyin li balois, if it's not commonly used up, meaning it stays intact, Hadre, you have to return it. Even if you ate and drank, you have to return it. So Rashbam is qualifying the Mishnah based upon the Gemara. When we say that you have to go ahead and if you eat, you don't return, that is if it is something that is not perishable. That's the best word. But if it's perishable, meaning it's one that's going to be used up, then no, then even if you ate there, you would get it back. Kiddutan b'Gemara. And what are we speaking about? One more factor, ubesivloinus stam mayri, where he did not say anything, he just sent it. The Hoblakamon in our Gemara later on, maflig, we're going to make a distinction. Besivloinus shesholach kadesha yavo imo lebeis baila, sivloinus that she's going to bring back to what to him. The sivloinus shesholach kadesha tishtamish beis abiyah was sivloinus that will remain by her. And that does not depend upon the chilas chasan, right? Okay, so let's put it together. There's this din of sivloinus. You would send gifts after the day of Erisin, and if it's gifts that are perishable, then if he eats, then there's no backsies. If he wants to divorce his wife, dies, there's no backsies. If it's non-perishable, then what? Then there's backsies even if you ate. Good. Secondly, another factor over here is whether it was sent stam without any condition. However, if you made a condition and said, I'm giving you this gift, I'll ask that you bring it to me during the marriage, then again, there is backsies, okay? That's the really the crux of the sugya we just did. Continues the Mishnah. Sholach sivloinos merubim, if you send sivloinos merubim, and merubim sheyachsiru imo lebeis baila, this is what we said, that you're going to bring. It's lav dafka, the point is not whether it's really big. It's whether you explain that you want it to come back. It's you explain that you want to, the keywords is sheyachsiru imo lebeis baila. Harielu nigvin, and it's collected. So this is not sivloinus stam like the Reisha. This is sivloinus with the string attached, right? And if you look at Rashbam, upirish kadesh yavo imo lebeis baila hu adin lemuatim. The same, since that's the factor where you made this condition. Hu adin if it was not a lot. Im sholchan lekach. El uchad the milson nakat merubim rogel l'shleach lefarish kadesh. In other words, it's normal. Where would you go ahead and say to bring it when you sense a lot? But Einachinami, it was little and you said, bring it back, then you bring it back. So that's the second end of the Mishnah. Shalach Sivloinis back in the Mishnah, Rubim Shiatsu Yimala Beis Baila, Haril and Nigvan. Sivloinis Muatim, Shetishamshem Beis Avia, Ein Nigvayim. But Sivloinis Muatim, which again is Pradlav Dafka, that you wanted to be Mishtamish in the Beis Avia, then Ein Nigvan. They're not correct. Okay, so the first end of the Mishnah. You sent Sivloinis Stam, you went and ate a dina, even though you sent a lot, and you went and ate a dina's worth. Amarava, dafka a dina. Avo pachas mi dina loy, but less than a dina not. Less than a dina, in other words, that is, there's no simcha, there's no mechila, there's nothing. It says, pshita dina tanan. What are you telling me, Rava? It said a dina. It says, Amadu tema hu adina filu pachas mi dina, even less, if he eats less than a dina. The high diktani dina or uchad the milsa katani. Maybe it's just the dina uchad the milsa katani. We said a person eats a zuz, which is a dinar. Mashmalan, kamashmalan that what? No, kamashmalan that mamish it's dafka. Okay, now tanan achal tanan. It said you eat in the father-in-law's house. Shosamai. What happens if you drink? Hu tanan shluchaymai. He eats. What about a shliach? A man can be mekadosh isha boy b'shluchay, right? Second parak in kedushin. You sent a shliach. What's the din? Shom in the base of your father-in-law. Tanan shiger loy mai. What happens if you go ahead and you send to the chassan? Let's say they send to the chassan the gift. So if you eat the food b'beis chamav, then there's a mechila. What happens if they send the suda to you, but you're not b'beis chamav? So a few shilas. What about drinking? What about your shliach? And what about not in the beis chamav, not in your father-in-law's house, because they sent it to you? Toshma, let's be paisha the shaila. Dam Rav Yudah Meshmuel, Ma'aseh Echad, Sheshiger lebeis chamav meir kroinos shel kadei yaim v'shel kadei shemen. Sent 100 wagons, I guess. If it's not an exaggeration, this guy's incredibly wealthy. Of barrels of wine, barrels of shemen. These are all perishable. V'shel clay kesef, v'shel clay zav, which is not perishable. V'shel clay melas, different fine wool. V'rocha b'simchasai, and he was riding along in his happiness. V'halach v'amid al pesach beis chamav. V'yitziu koshel chamim, they sent them out some diluted wine. Bishasa, he drank the wine, and Nishitzkedach he died. He died. Maisa Shahaya. Bizu halacha hella Rab Acha Sarabira lefnei chachamim leusha. He brought the shaila in front of Usha. V'yamru sivloinus suin liboles ein nigvin. So the kadei shemen v'kadei yayin, which are what are perishable, then he doesn't collect. Ushena suyin levalos, the kli kesev, the kli zav, nigvin, that you would collect. Good. So that, again, that fits in with our pshat. You sent it stam, you're bringing it stam. We make the chilik between whether it's a perishable or not, whether it's collectible or not. And now let's extricate what we can from here regarding your shaila, which was threefold, right? The shaila was drinking, Shiloh was being in the house, and the Shiloh was shliach. Now, obviously, from this Maisa, we can't deal with the shliach, but we could deal with what the two other Shilohs, whether drinking, and the third Shiloh, whether it's sent to him because he never made it into the house, right? So Shmamina, we can place it from here. What two of the three Shilohs? Afila pachas midina, right? You can place it over here. What even less than a dina because he only drank. So again, that wasn't part of the Shiloh. He said dina dafka. Amar Ravashi. Did I skip? No, I didn't skip. Right? I didn't skip. I'm good. I skipped. Oh, I'm good.
You skipped the first Mamina.
I did skip. I thought so. It didn't make any sense. Okay. Now, so the hell of Rav Acher Sarah Bir Lefnei Chacham Lu Shavam Seblenis Asuin Libalois Ein Nigvayin Ushenis Libalois Nigvayin Shmamina Afilu Shasa. I knew I skipped something. Afilu Shasa, even if they drank, because he didn't eat. Yet, why did they paskin, fellas? The perishables you don't have to return. So you see, you don't have to eat, even drinking. Shmamina Afilu Pachas Midinar. And on Ravashi, Man Le Melon. Right? How do you know that it was less than a dinar? Maybe they took a pearl, they went ahead and they crushed it up. They crushed up the pearl and they put it in the drink. They put it in the drink, which seems to be some type of medicinal thing. Look, if you look at Rashbam, guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. Man lemelon de shchichi loy magani. So maybe they crushed up a pearl because hachamim in the wine, in the hot wine. Shekain derech hasorim shoysin solar refuah. It seemed to have medicinal purposes. That a crushed pearl had medicinal purposes. So obviously that's a fortune. In other words, your deductible is not covering that, right? It's not covering that. That's an expensive drink. So clearly you're not going to say a dinar, right? That's expensive. Shmamina afilu shigaloi, right? And shmamina afilu sending to him because he never made it into his father-in-law's house. Says Dilma kol pachas beis chamav kebeis chamav dami, right? So l'chari you can't be pushing anything from this shaila, guys, right? Shasa, I mean drinking expensive drink, right? Less than a dinar. You would maybe on the outside of the father-in-law's house isn't the father-in-law's house. So ibaylu a new shaila. Mahu, I'll be gairis. You see the gersa on the side of the rif and the rush. Sheyashlam. Or if you have a gimel, mahu sheyashlam shevach sevloinus. Let's say it goes up in price, and you have to return it. Okay, hechatimsa. Let's say it's non-perishable. It's a non-perishable, and you have to return it. He wants a divorcer. Do you return it with the improvements or not? We have over here, the Rashbam says, let's say you sent soinu bakra, let's say you sent cattle or livestock, and what happened was it got better. Cattle and livestock, and it got better, right? And it gave birth. So do you get back the baby or just what? Just the animals? That's what Rashbam learns. Kivin the isnu, what's the lum? This behind this. Kivin the isnu lididei, right? Hadre b'shusei shvucha. Since if it gets returned to him, it's considered in his rishus. Idilma kivin the avdei or maginve, if it's stolen from them or lost, boy shlumilei, they're gonna have to pay him. B'shusei didak, it's considered what in our rishus. Where it says what teku. Boy Rava, sivloinus asuyin libalos. They're perishable. V'loi balu, and they don't perish. Mahu, you return it or not. So in other words, you sent kadei yayin kadei shemen, and it's still around. It's not used up. What's the din? In other words, do you have to in a case where you have to return it, right? Let's say he didn't say stam, right? I guess he said stam. That's because case stam the return that would be the case, right? Only stam, because if it's mefarish, of course you have to return it. So when you're returning non-perishables, you're returning gold and silver, and you have kadei yayin and kadei shemen. Do you have to return it or not? Tashma. The same. This is what we just said before. Ein nigvin. They're still around. In other words, you said a carte blanche statement. You send two things. You send kadei shemen. You send gold and silver. Good. Gold and silver return. Even if they're around, you don't return them. That's so we place the shaila. Even if they're not used up, you have to return them. And that's where it says like the balu. Speaking where they be used up. You could say that. In other words, you can't be placed the shaila from there. Tashma. Savloinus mu'atim, the case of the Mishnah, where you have where you said you're leaving it in the daddy's house. Shetishtamish behen v'hi bebeis aviyah, ein nigvin, right? Mashma afilu what? Afilu if they're not used up, ein nigvin, right? Mashma if they're not used up, ein nigvin. So Tigmer Rava says it's speaking b'yeva b'sivchasa, speaking about some type of kerchief or some type of hairpiece where he's moichel. In other words, it's so inexpensive that muatim he's moichel. But enochinami, let's say it was kadei yayim and kadei shemen, maybe he wouldn't be moichel. So you're not paished the shaila. Amrav Yudamarav. Ma'isabah the mechad sheshigel beis chamav. He sent to Sivloinus. What did he send to his father-in-law? Yayin chadash, v'shemen chadash, new wine, new oil, ukli pishnon and linen clothing, chadash. He had seres. And he sent it on Shavuos. What's the chiddush that you tell me he sent it on Shavuos? Says the Gemara, "Iboyis emach yeshivu d'Eretz Yisrael kamash malon." The chashivus of Eretz Yisrael, that even in such a short period of time that you have fruits that are available, you're able to make wine and able to make shemen because it says chadash. That means it's not antiquated wine, it's not old shemen, it's not from last year's crop, it's new crop. So it's the chashivus of Eretz Yisrael that the crop ripens so quick. The toyin tanisa taina. If the guy would say, "Listen, I want it back," and they'll say, "1 second, in a million years, how can you tell me you sent us new barrels of wine, new barrels of shemen?" In other words, it's speaking in a case where he wants it back, and he said, if it doesn't work out, I want to get it back. So in that case, maybe they'll say, "In a million years, it's not ready. How can you say it's ready?" And the answer is, that's what the mice is coming to tell me. That his taina is a real taina, because what? Because taka in Eretz Yisrael and Shavuos, it's taka available. It's taka available. So either because the chashivus Eretz Yisrael, or because of what? Because of the taina of the Baal that it's there. Amrav Yudamarav. Ma'isabad Amechad she'amar lo ishtoi tutronis he. They said his wife was a tutronis, but Rashbam says she couldn't smell. If your wife can't smell, you're able to divorce her, give her a ksuba, but you're able to divorce her. She's not able to smell, right? So he went to check. So what did he do? He went after her in the churban. It was a churban. He went after in the churban to check her out. So he had gone ahead and he put a tznoin, a radish, or some say again it's the machlokes the Gemara in Ksubis, but he put a radish, or in addition he put a date. Let's keep what we have over here. He put a radish. And he said, Amalo, he told her, I'm smelling a radish from the north. Amid base. Amrullah, she said back to him, right? Man Yohiv Aleha Churba Miksubas Lirichai. Man Yohiv, who would give, right? Aleha Churban a Churva from the dates of Yerichai. In other words, she understood what he was doing. And therefore, Rashbam says, Derech Schoik. You say, "Oh, you're speaking about radishes? I'm speaking about dates. In other words, that she could smell. That I should eat it. Anyway, the churva fell on her, and Mason, she died. So Amr Chachamim, since he only went after her to check if, again, they had been married, to check if the marriage is going to, whether he has a divorce or not, ain't a yarsha. Doesn't go ahead and yarsha. So the Rashbam is a long way healthy Rashbam over here. Are we speaking about an arusa or an asua? So Rashbam says an arusa you never inherit. The 12-month period, if you die, you never inherit. So it's speaking about an asua. But what? It's an asua that you put your mind, if she can't smell, you're going to divorce her. If you put your mind to divorce your wife, right, you can't live with her anymore, right? And therefore, you're not Yerush. That's what Rashbam says. So the reason you're not nourished, you speak about an asua. It's after 12 months. Now he's checking her, meaning if he finds out that she can't smell, he's going to divorce her. If that's the case, he's going to divorce her, then he's not Yerish's wife. Savlunas muatim shetishtamish ben beisavia. Yosef Rava Saba Kamei Rav Papa, Rava the Saba, the elder, was sitting in front of Rav Papa. Yosef Kamar, Bein Shemesahi, Ubein Shemeshu, Hadu Ben Shemesahu, Hadahu Savloin, Hadahu, or he changes his mind. Savloinus Hadre, right? Then the Savloinus will come back again. He went ahead and he said he went ahead and he said that it's speaking where he wants it to be what in the it's going to be in the it's going to stay in the father-in-law's house. That's what he said. Conversely, if he said it was Maruba, he wants it back, it goes to his house. Okay, so that's the case. Now, whether he dies or she dies, and now the Baal, if she dies, the Baal wants it back. Ubein shemes hu, and is Yoshima being asking from the wife to get it back, right? But Hadar who, or he, the Baal goes ahead, it's Makadashah, and he wants now to go ahead and doesn't want to marry her. Sivloinus Hadre, Umaychel Mishta Hadar. The Sivloinus, the gift goes back. The gift goes back. You have to give it back. However, the price of the Suda, since what? It's something that's going to be used up, ain't it tzrichi. You don't have to go ahead and return that. Aval Hodra Ba'ihi. If she goes ahead and changes her mind, then Hodra Afilu Kisha Diyarka. You're going to have to, even a packet, a bunch of vegetables will have to return. So if he returns, if he changes his mind, then the Savlunas are returned, but not the Suda, nobody ate. If she goes ahead and changes the mind, you're going to have to pay even even paying for the food. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yeshua, V'shamin lahem. How do you go ahead and figure out how much to pay? The meyabasa bizul, a third price. Ad kama, we had this in Baba Kama. Bizul, how much is ad kama? How much is cheap? Ad tilsa. You can go ahead and take away a third of the. We won't be machman to pay, drop dead retail, but you're going to play out a third off. Says the Mishnah. This is something we're very familiar with. The matana of a shchiv meira. Matana of a shchiv meira. Shchiv meira shekosav kol nechasav la'acherim. A shchiv meira, he wrote over all his nechasim to somebody else. Now, when he writes, guys, that lechora is a kinyan. Now, the first thing we think about a shchiv meira is divrei shchiv meira kiksuvim uchlim surim dami. He doesn't have to make a kinyan. So if you look at the Rashbam, shchiv meira shekosav kol nechasav la'acherim. For who adin, the same din would apply in chilik al piv beloy ksiva. If he goes ahead and verbally says what he wants done with it without ksiva, shama nichsei ploini mechasim should go to so and so. Not lekamon, as we'll see. So back in the Mishnah. So shchiv meira shekosav kol nechasav la'acherim and lav dafka kosav. But if he goes ahead as mechalik to his piv, and what does he do? V'shayir karka kolshu. He leaves over a little bit. Now, what does that mean? It means that he doesn't think he's going to die. He thinks he's going to die. He's leaving this world. He wants to go ahead and take care of all his financial needs. And therefore, we're oimid, as we'll see in a second, that if he gave up all this property, he thought he was going. Memela what? It's done. What happens if he leaves over stuff? Now, why is he leaving over stuff? If he thinks he's going, you can't take it with you, right? You can't take it with you. So why is he leaving it over? So therefore, we're oimid that he doesn't think he's going, and therefore the other things he gave as a matana is a matana. And therefore, if he gets better, he doesn't get it back. If he gets better, he doesn't get it back. That's the first end of the Mishnah. Matnase kayemes. Then his matana is mekuyim and no backsies. Loy shayir karka kolshu. He gives away everything. Ain't matnase kayemes. Then his matana is what is not mekayemes. Now this is a case of an umdina, guys. What's an umdina? We're oimed. We evaluate. What did he mean to do? We'll evaluate what he mean to do. So the fact that he's going ahead and not leaving over everything, leave over anything, we're oimed that he thinks he's going. And therefore, if he doesn't go, then his kinyan is not a kinyan. He can go back, and that's the sugya we're going to do right now. The sugya of umdina exactly, which we've seen before. This concept of being oimi. Says the Gemara, Man Tana Daslina Basa Umdina. Who's the Tana? Right, we had this Gemara before. Who's the Tana who goes after Umdina, who goes after evaluating what a person means? So Amar Rav Nachman says the Amoyer of Nachman. It's of Shimon ben Menashe. We had this in Kuf Lamed Beis. It's of Shimon ben Menashe. Ditnanya. Harishaholach ben Olim Dina Sayom. Your son went overseas. V'sham Hashem Eis Benoi, and he heard that his son was died. V'yamad because of Kol Mechasav La'acher. And now he goes ahead, and let's say this was his only son, and now goes ahead. He says, "Okay, I'm giving all my property to so and so, because why? He's oimid that his son is not around." Now the question is, if his son shows up, is his matana a good matana or not? Do we say that had he known his son was alive, he never would have given it, or no? Says the Gemara, and then his son shows up. Manase matana, says the Tanakama, his matana is a good matana. And his son doesn't get it. There's no backseas. Reb Shimon ben Menashe oimen, no. Ein matana matana shamali hayodea shebno kayim. Had he known his son was alive, he never would have written it in the first place. So who's the Tana of our Mishnah who says you go after Umdina? What's the Umdina in our Mishnah? The fact that the Shrebeirah did not leave over anything. So oimid, he thinks he's dying. So too must be Reb Shimon ben Menashe who says that we oimid if you had. Since you thought your son was alive, then you're dead, you gave away everything. But had you known your son was alive, you never would have done it. Had you known in our Mishnah you would have lived, you never would have done it. That's the Rav Nachman's pshat in our Mishnah. So the Tana of our Mishnah is Rav Shimon ben Menashe. That's according to Rav Nachman. Rav Sheshes says no. Who's the Tana of our Mishnah? Is Rav Shimon Shizurihi. So we're going to have another Omdina, and then the Gemara is going to ask, what did Rav Sheshes not like about Rav Nachman's teretz? And what did Rav Nachman not like about Rav Sheshes' teretz? Rav Sheshes says it's a different number. Tanya, Barishaina, it's not. It's a Mishnah. Initially, Haya Oimrim, Hayoytze B'Kailar, someone is being taken out in chains. We just had Geniva Yoytze B'Kailar. We had Geniva's son. So this person is being taken out in chains to die. So he knows that he's going to be executed. But Omar, and he says, Kisfu get le'ishti. He doesn't want his wife falling to Yibum. And he says, write a get for my wife. What doesn't he say? He doesn't say to give it. He says, write a get for my wife, but he doesn't say to give it. Now, is this an umdina that the reason why he's writing the get is to give it, and he just left it out because he was a little fatshadet? Or no? That's the shaila. So now, Hari Elu Yichdavu, write the get, the yitnu, and you give it. I didn't say to know? No. That's an oimid that this person, when he said to write it, wanted to give it. So says Rav Sheshes, the Tana of our Mishnah is Rav Shimon Shizuri, as we'll see in a second. Chazru loymar, not only was being taken out to be killed, but afa mafish v'yotzim sheyara, a guy who's going in a caravan, or he's going on a trip, he's going on a trip that's dangerous. If he says, write a get to my wife, we'll write it and we'll give it. Rav Shimon Shizuri yoyma av hamasukin. Even a person that is mesukin, he's carved to dying. Rashbam, 3 lines from the bottom. Afham hamesukin, karav lemisa, shedaita sheyichdevu, v'yitnu. The lifter es ishtay min hayibim niskaven. He sees him as sakana. He doesn't want his wife falling to yibum. So even though he didn't say to give it, he said to write it. That is enough. So Rav Shimon Shizuri is the Tana of our Mishnah, Tana of Umdina. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman said it's like Rav Shimon ben Menashe. My time alloy ukman Reb Shimon Shizuri. What did he not like about Shimon Shizuri? What did he not like about that? Shani Hasam the Amar Kisvu. There he said what? There he said Kisvu. He said to write it. In other words, in our Mishnah, Kisvu is more of an action. In our Mishnah, it was just a dibur. What does our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said, "Give away all my property," but he didn't write anything. Right? He didn't write anything. Right? Okay, well, our Mishnah said, Shekasav kol mechasav acherim, he did say something, right? Okay, I don't know. Mishnah said that to write. Right? The Mishnah said, I don't know. Says, let's see the Rashbam. Shani Hasam, Dama Kisvu. Goli daita sheroitz is get. The lav the girsha ksiva get matzorech. Why would he say to write the get? In other words, Rav Nachman didn't like Shimon Suzuri's case. Like it's understood as if he said tenu, or else why would he say kisvu? Masha'enkin in our Mishnah, it's a bigger umdin in our Mishnah. You have to tighten up, fellas. That's the pshat. When you say write a get, why in the world are you writing a get if you're holding by death? If not to give it, it doesn't mean anything. Masha'enkin in our Mishnah, where again you have to make an umdana that he doesn't think he's going to get better, and therefore he's giving it away. Yeah. So therefore, you know what's the closer umdana? That's the case of giving over your nechasim to somebody else when you thought your son was dead. So just like over there, you thought your son was dead, you gave it to somebody else. Who adin, you thought you're dying, you gave it away everything. Mashain came when you say the Shimon Shizuri, write a get. Of course you give it. It's pashit. It's not even umdana. Okay. Rav Sheshes my time alo mukila Rav Shimon ben Menasya. Why did Rav Shimon? Why did Rav Sheshes like better about a kisvu a get, right? When you're a mesukin, than giving over nechasam to a child. Says the Gemara, when you thought your child was dead, the mukach shiny, an umdana that is mukach, that in other words it's so pashit, that's different. Rashbam, the mukach shiny. Shekol zman shahoya b'noi kayim like nasan at sheshama shemes. You know what? All of a sudden, Punkt, he's giving away his property. Why is he giving away the property? He didn't give away a property 2 days ago. You know why? Because he thought his son was alive. Now he's being motivated by what? By hearing upon the death of his son. Oh, he heard his son died. It's mukach that the whole reason he gave it is because he heard the son died. That's more of a umdana. At sheshama shemes abel chayla, keeping the roiv chaylim l'chayim. Since roiv chaylim offer, guys, in other words, shchiv meira, we don't. This guy's not with stage 4 cancer. You know, you think it's not stage 4 cancer. This guy's sick. So since roiv chaylim get better, for who like tziva machmas misa leka umdana the mukach kulaha. You don't have such an umdana. So therefore, Rav Sheshes did not like Rav Shimon Menasye's case. Rav Shimon Menasye's case was an umdana that was very, very powerful, and therefore he can't be the Tan of our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, it's not as powerful. Our Mishnah, Rav Chaylim get better. Over here, we gave it away when he heard upon the death of his son. That was the whole motivation to give it away. So therefore, he found it more appropriate, write a get to my wife, as what is being more of a corollary to our Mishnah than the case of giving away your property when you heard the son passed away. Says the Gemara, Man Tana lahad Tana Rabbanan. Who's the Tana of the following? Let's finish this Inyan. Who's the Tana of the following? This brisa, the Tana Rabbanan. Shahaya chayla umutal b'mita. This person's sick and he's lying in bed. But Amruloi, the people around him say to him, Nechasechel and me, who are nechasim going to? But Amr lahem, Amr Aleph. But Amr lahem, doime. Well, doime is like lechayra. Doime, it appears to me that yeshli ben, that I had a son, but you know what? Achshav she'enli ben nechasi lepoini. So doime, I thought I had a son. But now I don't. So you know what? My nechasim go to so and so. Hayachaylu mutal b'mita, or he's sick in bed and he's holding by death. For amruloi nechasav l'mi, they ask him who his property go to. Amalahem doime sheishtimu beres. Duchzich mir that my wife is pregnant. Achshav sheishtimu beres. No, she's not pregnant. Nechasi leploini. V'noida, and then it becomes known sheyesh le ben that Itaka had a son. Oisha hoisa ishtimu beres, so his wife was pregnant. Then is it a good matana or not? Matana. So it's an umdra. Lamer of Shimon ben Menasya, he v'lei Rabbanon. Let's say it's Shimon ben Menasya, who said when he heard that his son died, he gave it away. When he heard that his son died, he gave it away. When he didn't hear his son died, he didn't. The Chachamim said, even when he thought his son was dead and gave it away, it's not a good matana. So, l'chayra, it is a good matana. Excuse me, it is a good matana, Chachamim. So let's say this case over here would reflect the opinion of Shimon ben Menasya, who holds it's not a good matana, just like you find out the son was alive. So too over here, and you find out there was a son or your wife was pregnant, it's not a good matana. And the Chachamim who said, even though you found out your son was alive and you gave it away, it is a good matana, would disagree over here. He would say it's a good matana, even though you find out that you do have a son or your wife is pregnant. So let's say this case is not like what? Not like the Rabbanon, but like Rav Shimon, only Rav Shimon Zuri. On that, the Gemara says, Rav Shimon Zuri hivle Rabbanon, afilu temer Rabbanon. You could say this is different. Why? Doima shiny. What does doima mean? I thought I had a son. I thought my wife was pregnant. There, it's more clear that the whole reason he's giving it away and not to his son, because he thought he had it, because he realized he doesn't have a son. He realized his wife's not pregnant. Doima, I thought. In other words, I thought to give it to my son. I thought to give it to the Uber, but they're not here. So when did the Rabbanon say that you don't go after Umdina? That's where he heard his son died and Taka wasn't died. But Doima, when you said clearly by saying Doima, what's he stating? I want to give it to my son. I don't have a son. I want to give it to an Uber. I don't have an Uber, right? So the Chacham would be Maida in this case. Now, l'chayr, it's a dava pashit, the chilik between this case and the other case. Doima, he's verbally saying who he wants to give it to. And therefore, since I can't give it to this one because they're not here, I give it to the other one. So what was the havamina to say it's the Rabbanan, that not like the Rabbanan? Why would you think the Rabbanan would disagree? Fred the Gemara, with the Karila, my Karila, what were you thinking? L'chayr, it's a dava pashit, the difference between doima and not doima. That Gemara says, Ma'al the Tema, Sa'ari hu de Kamatka. In other words, he's bemoaning his fate. He's not saying that what I would give it to my son. He's saying, once upon a time I had a son. Once upon a time my wife was pregnant. So I would think that what maybe in the Havamina, I would think that what he's just bemoaning his fate, and he didn't really it's the same umdana as he heard his son died overseas. Kamash that no, we don't say he's bemoaning his fate. We're saying Taka Doim is different. He really wanted to give it, and even the Chacham would be Maida in that case that what that it's not a good matana.